An update tonight in our investigation into the Texas Department of Criminal Justice and the latest review of the agency. This week, the Texas Sunset Advisory Commission heard testimony from its staff, our state's criminal justice leaders, and the public. Investigative reporter Shaylee Kidwell listened in on that meeting that lasted nearly 6 hours. She joins us now with the major takeaways and the next steps for lawmakers. Shaylee.
Brittany, the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, along with other adult criminal justice entities, were recently reviewed by Sunset staff. We first published staff's findings last month. The 189-page report stated the investigation of the TDCJ occurred during a system-wide prison lockdown due to unprecedented levels of contraband and violence and inmate population projections that exceed TDCJ's operational capacity. Yesterday, Sunset staff presented its recommendations to the Sunset Commission in hopes of preventing the current problems from becoming an unmanageable, widespread crisis. In the nearly 6-hour meeting, criminal justice leaders had an opportunity to respond to the recommendations, and so did the public, who shared firsthand accounts of what's happening within our state's largest agency. For hours, one after another testified before the Sunset Commission. Members listened quietly to a grieving mother.
I thought it was only fair to allow the one person that would have benefited from those recommendations to be present for this conversation. This is my son, Jovian Motley. He was a correctional officer at the Wainwright unit and was killed November 13, 2023.
1 year ago, the Texas Department of Criminal Justice issued this press release, which states Motley died when assisting other officers in restraining an inmate. In the release, Executive Director Brian Collier is quoted saying, "Officer Motley was a hero who tragically died while protecting his fellow officers and the public."
When you have officers that are not equipped with the things that they need to do their job and to go into dark cells where the lighting is not enough to give information as to why one officer didn't come out alive, it's a safety issue.
She believes other correctional officers are still without proper equipment.
One officer was brutally attacked and had to be rushed to the hospital, and he didn't have a radio to call for backup. So it's an issue.
The executive director for the Texas Correctional Police Council also testified.
Many officers are working in areas with inmates that have no way to call for assistance if needed. Imagine working in a prison and not having even a radio to be able to call for assistance.
TDCJ Executive Director Brian Collier testified that equipping every officer with a radio isn't feasible, but he said his office is working to address the critical staffing levels, something member Jeff Austin III asked him about.
Right now, if I understand, y'all have about 5,500 openings.
Correct. Yes, sir, for correctional officers.
Correctional officers statewide. One of the challenges, I know that's a challenge in morale, everything else. What are some of the reasons for the staffing shortage?
There's less young people in the workforce, and there are less people competing for more jobs. So that's one. But more so than that, for our business, it becomes a geographic issue sometimes. Many of the West Texas areas where we have prisons that were built in the 90s, those towns actually have less of a population today than they did when we put those prisons in.
Collier says his office is also working to address the culture and morale issues within the agency.
We have established an Office of Organizational Development within our Human Resources Division that is focusing on employee coaching, retention, and wellness, along with our other initiatives.
Ultimately, Collier testified TDCJ is on board with the recommended changes. Motley testified she will continue to hold this agency and our state's lawmakers accountable.
To make sure that true change happens, to make sure that there's not another Jovian Motley.
The commission did not take any action at yesterday's meeting. Members will take time to consider the testimony and announce their final decisions on December 11th and 12th. We'll let you know what those members decide. Brittany.